Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's musings once I finally got my arse into gear. I've been avoiding the video for some reason. Well, not for some reason, for many reasons. Many identities, many personalities, many ways of seeing myself or not seeing myself have come to light leading into doing this video. And underneath it all, a large concern of how I will be perceived, how that image will come across. As you know, a lot of the times when I feel into the energies of the week, I will relate it to aspects of my own experiences or my own life, my own story. And, you know, for the most part, that has helped to connect the dots, if you will, of what's going on. A lot of that comes from a wanting to be relatable, a wanting to belong to everything that is happening, to be part of it. Over the last few weeks, I've discovered an innate collective desire to almost go back to traumatic situations in order to stand with them. And whilst that is well-meaning, there are those that have been through things that are now able to hold space for others that are going through that. Now, that doesn't mean that the individual experiences are projected onto those that are going through it. Now, I'm stumbling my words because I'm being made very aware of my own story here as well, and to really step beyond that. And that's the invitation this week, to really step beyond the image that we have of ourselves and each other. With the new moon coming up, I think it's on Wednesday, I should know, I've written a blog about it. Yes, it's on Wednesday in Aquarius. There is a again, an invitation. It's a very inviting week. It may not feel like it, but it's a very inviting week. There is an invitation on Wednesday. Don't try and figure out what it's all about in one go. There's an invitation on Wednesday to see beyond what is occurring by feeling into it, by listening to it, not visualizing physically, or at least not solely relying physically on what we see in front of us, ourselves included. There's a lot changing. There's a lot coming to the surface about our own identities. We all live out roles. We all become certain parts of the game that needs to be played out. And when those things have been shifted, when we have done our duty, I want to say, because it can really feel like a duty sometimes. When we have done that has been asked of us, it is time to then move forward. That leaves us in a real grey area. This week, that is the potential we're all facing. It's going to feel confusing and slightly discombobulated, and almost, I feel almost a sense of breathlessness, anxiety, heart palpitation type energy, if we don't feel into the freedom that is underneath that, the heart expansion that is underneath that, the beat that is trying to come through underneath that, the reality of who we now are. So that when we do share our experiences, we do not share them from being in them. We share them from having walked through them. This year, with the year of the Hermit, it is about walking our own path, and that may include supporting others. It may not, and that can be quite different for people that are used to it being all about that. It may not include supporting others, and the tendency to do what is easy doesn't necessarily mean that that is the path we are now ready for. Okay, now I'm not saying stretch out of your comfort zone, although I hear why not. I'm not saying stretch out of your comfort zone because that is an individual process. However, just because we can do something, does that mean that we should? Is that progression? And that's the key this week. There's a lot of information coming up and a lot of opportunities. Now, it's not an invitation, it's an opportunity to look at where we are acting from. The invitation is actually to do something different with everything that's coming in. The opportunities are to see where we may be doing things samey. Now, there's no judgment there. It can be very daunting to break free of our own restrictive realities. It is a process that we all go through at a rate that is right for us. However, when we choose to see ourselves purely in one physical expression, one modality, one connection, one guide, one way of being, not only does that impact us, that impacts everyone we decide to share that with. So without putting pressure on anybody, not only are we restricting us, but we're restricting others. And there's a real need in the next few months to work within our own soul sphere of practice. And in order to do that, it is about recognizing what that includes. So for an example, I have people come to me that need specific types of healing or counseling that I am not trained to do, and I will pass them forward. This week, it feels really important. One, if certain energies keep coming towards you, maybe there's an invitation there to excel in a particular area. But also to recognize if something is out of your remit, if something is out of your ability, there is no shame in passing that forward. Sometimes we are a bridge. We are literally a point of contact to move someone where they need to be. There's a lot of clinging to energies, stories, situations, ways of being, and it's all coming from a lack mentality. It's all coming from a place of fear. It's all coming from, I can't share this because if I do, you know, that energy may go over there. I may lose followers. I may blah, 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 blah. I may upset people. I may, and it's all very much a fear of our own image, because who we are and what we see isn't necessarily in alignment. And this week that's really going to come to the surface. Why? Collectively, we are moving through some huge woundings, through some huge narratives. And, you know, one of my narratives is reciprocity. Yeah, I have a massive wound with that I'm continually healing, shifting, looking into. However, to make it solely about me stops that expansion, and it stops that expanded healing also. So this week, really looking at where you have made something just about your experience, and from that are unable not only to see the bigger vision with it, the bigger dream that is available with it, the bigger calling with it, and more importantly, the expanded support that is there. Okay, anything else to share? To look at the things that we share. This morning, one of the things that I got was when you see a translator. When you see a translator, they're not adding their own version. They are translator, or a good translator, a good interpreter will literally say what they hear. Okay, they will share what they feel, what they hear, what they see. Okay, so really having confidence with that. Best will in the world, there is a real... I'm trying to think of the word after I just said share what you hear. Okay, so there is a real big blanket over what we may not like to see, over what we may not like to hear, over things that may affect us, as if being affected is a negative connotation of being human. It is a normal, natural process. We are to be moved by things. We are to be affected by things. And we are to see that as an opportunity to look further into the invitation underneath. So this has moved me because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, but what's the deeper essence behind this? Maybe it's moved you because you're being called to do something about it. Maybe it's moved you because you want to spend time reflecting on that wound within you. Whatever that may be this week, it has moved you for a reason, and it's okay to be moved. Oh yeah, it's okay to feel things. It's perfectly normal to feel things, and we're kind of living in a society where it's not. That is going to undergo some big changes over the next few months in order to see the more authentic image underneath of who we are and the world that we are creating as a result. Many hidden aspects of the shadow will come to the surface to be seen, but they are always there. They are always there. Wherever there is light, there is shadow. So there is more to that than meets the eye. One of the biggest shadows can be that we hold on to the shadow. One of the biggest shadows can be that we feed from the wound, we feed from the pain, we feed from the trauma. And this is human nature. It is human nature to think of the worst case scenario. We have done that through centuries of evolution. The opportunity this week is to also play perhaps something that I call thought tennis. Okay, so we have this on the one side. What about this? To question our thoughts, to feel our emotions, to meet the energy that we're coming up against with the same. Okay, now that doesn't mean if we're having arguments to argue back, but to really look at what is coming up to the surface. And what is coming up to the surface? Well, it is an opening of how we express ourselves. It's going to come through in creativity. You may find yourself singing, or singing if you've never sung. That may be a new thing for you. You may find yourself creating things, writing, whatever, finding a way to express that. But if we continue to see ourselves from one perspective only, an example, I'm a very analytical, scientific person, believe it or not. I'm very academic. So to read tarot cards for me was just a no-no. However, it's not about chucking that side of you away. Use it. Whatever's rising up in you this week, use it. So for me, the scientific, analytical side of me wants to know why the healing works and why I'm sensing into what I'm sensing. And that has actually taught me a greater role in what it means to be a midwife and a greater role in what it means to be a medicine woman, so that I can understand the body more holistically. The opportunity this week, even though it may seem fragmented, and my God does it seem fragmented to begin with, is to see ourselves from a more expanded vision, to see ourselves more holistically, to see ourselves holy rather than holy. Okay, so one of the things I talk to a lot of students and a lot of people that come for healing, particularly with soul loss, is, you know, when we have an aspect of ourselves we don't like and we push to one side, what we do is we create a space there, and that space is wounded. What we then do is attract the same wound from other areas and bring that in. We end up being like holy cheese. Okay, now those gaps are going to be filled either with old stories or with old energies or similar to what we have removed, until we can accept that part and bring it back holy or holy and see it for the sacredness that it is. How do we do that? We expand our vision of ourselves. It's one thing to work with our shadow energy, and our ancestral energy and our wounds, but it's never about getting rid of them. It's never about bypassing them. And sometimes when we find the medicine in that, we can even bypass it. Sometimes it's as simple as feeling it and allowing it to come back, allowing it to be held, allowing it to be seen, and allowing it to complete itself. And this week, that is the invitation. But we are only going to be able to do that if we see ourselves as the version that has already been through it. Most of the time, we act or react from a place where it's still happening. And this week, it is looking at how our past still affects our presence in our ability to be in this moment. One of the biggest things we do as humans is to go back into our mind, to try and figure things out, to try and analyze things. And that can be the more shadow aspect of the Aquarian new moon, because it is an air sign. Okay, so it is linked to the Five of Swords. Remember that the 5, this new moon, the 5 is a turning point. We can either go backwards or we can go forwards, and that is the invitation. There's no judgment there, because it's polar opposites. Eventually it will all spin around again anyway. So doing what is right for you. If you need to go back over something to bring aspects of yourself home, so be it. If not, move forward. Either way, recognize you are doing so from a place of choice. Even if you feel you have no choice, that's a choice. Now that's going to be triggering. You know, it triggers me. It relates or it doesn't relate. And if it is triggering, then it's stirring something in you. It's lighting something up in you. It's glimmering something in you. Great, because we're here to feel things. We're here to shift things. We're here to go through the process of emotional maturity and wisdom. Feel it. What is coming up for you this week, and how can you use it to rise? Whatever's rising within you, allow it to help you rise now into not a better version, a more holistic, expanded version of who you are. Everything you've been through isn't to be separate. I'm having a tree surgeon come out Wednesday on the new moon. and he's cutting down a big chunk of the tree. I've asked him to leave the roots, but he has to cut down the branches because they're dead. And that is what we're facing. Yeah, releasing the dead branches now, the things that are leading to no other growth, not the roots of them, but the journeys that have perhaps gone on longer than they need to, this reading included. So let's look into the energies this week. I'm working with the Wildwood Tarot by Mark Ryan and John Matthews, and they're a lot more indigenous, native, shamanic, Celtic, whatever energy you want to call it, and they can be in that a lot more spatially aware. It isn't about controlling the energies this week. You may feel as if they're kind of all over the place. It's Aquarius, right? It's going to be huge. It's a visionary energy. But we can still decide what we choose to focus on, okay? You cannot control the collective. We're not supposed to control the collective, but we can embrace the individualism within it. And that is the opportunity this week, from where we choose to see ourselves. There are those, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that have been through the process and are able to hold space for those that are going through it now. However, there is a version of ourselves that has been through it also, that can hold space for those past aspects coming up and help them just to reintegrate. Reintegration is the key this week. How? Well, I'm feeling it in my root chakra. Not to fear, grounding to the powerful earth energy that is coming in. There's some huge energy coming in as we lead into Imbolc. As we lead into the beginning of February, we're preparing for spring and the spring equinox. And yes, the earth is waking up and we're feeling that. So really, really sensing into that this week. Really grounding into it. There are huge Kundalini rises coming up, and that is based on our connection to the earth. Use it. You know, it's the year of the snake. Use that energy that's rising up within you to clear any stagnant, dense, hucha, feminine energies that are in the way. And they are in the way. And that may not be comfortable. Well, we may like how things have been. You know, we don't see them as being in the way. Okay, again, it's an individual process. Just dropped a load of cards. Okay, so we're going to look at the ones that have been dropped. So we have the 5 of arrows, the 5 of swords, which is what the new moon is all about. And it is a time to rest here, to recognize that a change is as good as the rest. Yeah, so we either rest and things change, or things will change and they will help us rest this week. I'm just feeling, just felt something. Just remember that I have a crystal in my bra. Okay, really feeling into the need for transformation, the choice being faced here to rest. And by rest, that may be something as long as taking time out. That may be stepping back. That may be when the same recurring thoughts come up, thinking, hang on a minute, I'm just going to wait for something new to come in. My granddad used to go, and what? Okay, let that thought come in. Does it, birds are singing outside, does it sing to me? Does it call to me? Does it make me want to wake up in the morning? Does it inspire me? Or is it taking my direction, my time and my energy? And how much am I willing to let that have? Because the transformation comes from allowing our body, you can see here, just to reconnect back to the earth. To really ground. To rest is to be present. Now that can be drinking our tea. That can be looking into the eyes of someone we love. That can be pausing and breathing. To allow the sound in between the sounds to be heard. I was once shown the binary code of creation. Once shown the binary code of creation and the 1010. The on off. In between there's a pause. And that pause is transition. In between every sound, every vibration, every creation, every contraction, every heartbeat, there is a moment of stillness, a void of potential. Resting. Allowing that to happen this week so that we don't create the same stories. The brain, a lot of the brain's information is filled in. A lot of the gaps are filled in based on what we already know because the brain is so busy. When we can slow down the waves of our brain, we allow new information to come through. Allowing yourself to have a pause, particularly with the new moon, particularly before we jump on board and say, this is what I want, da 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 da, this is what I'm trying to manifest. If they're the same things, repetition can be a really, really good thing. It can really strengthen muscles. It can really give us some resolve. If it's coming from a place of recognizing how far we've come, if it's coming from a place where we're just setting out again, coming from a unrealistic reality, a miraged reality, if it's coming from the past, you're only ever going to create what you've already got. Okay, so taking a moment to rest, particularly with the new moon, and feel into what has changed before you seek more transformation. We then have judgment, which is the great bear. I'm wondering whether or not to do this in some kind of order, but even that feels important to let go as we look at judgment and the great bear. To let go of any uniformed order, to know that this works as it works, to recognize there is a far greater perspective than timing, than structure, than routine, and really sensing into that. To go within, okay, to really step within the unknown order. To use uncertainty as the order this week is going to bring up, yes, some areas where we may have some judgment, some areas where we may feel defensive or the need to protect. Go within. What are you feeling? It's beautiful that you're feeling. What is it you're feeling? More importantly, what is it you need? We then have the Page of Bows or the Page of Swords here. And when I look at this, the only thing I truly want to focus on is the stoat. The only thing I truly want to focus on is the small trickle of water that's coming through. Even though it is a sword card, the small trickle of emotion that is coming through underneath all of these thoughts. In this card, it looks like a dam in the background. And it may feel... Can't see that. Let's see if we can. Okay, it may feel as if it's just a little trickling emotion, just a little niggle. Yeah, I felt that. They said that and I felt that, or I did this and I felt that, and oh, I'll ignore that. Eventually that starts to build, and if we don't feel those emotions in the very, very beginning of their essence, the mind gives it a story so that we do feel that. So if we can pinpoint the trickle, the leak, even the energy leak of our own psyche, of our own intuition, of our own emotional awareness, if we can pinpoint that leak, that little trickle, rather than questioning it, rather than analyzing it, really feeling into it and seeing the impact of that small emotion, what can seem like a small emotion on our mind. The phrase catastrophizing springs to mind. Okay, so we can feel something and it may feel as if it's something huge, so it may take a very small emotion to unravel what is going on this week. So really, really important to notice what we're feeling. Does feel related to the inner child as well, because we have the page energy, but not in a immature way, in a real deep-seated wound here. It may feel as if it's small, but it's actually may feel as if it's a trickle, but it's been ongoing for a long time, since childhood, I would say. And it's a wonderful opportunity with the page being a new energy as we lead into Imbolc. So that's the order. Okay, so far that's the order. As we lead into Imbolc, it's a beautiful opportunity to open ourselves up to whatever we now need to feel. Open ourselves up to whatever has been the underlying current, even if it feels small, the underlying current in how we react and how we see each other, how we see ourselves and each other, because they're one and the same. How we react is how we see ourselves. Okay, so if we're reacting from a inner child perspective, from a wounded place, that's how we're going to see ourselves and each other. Okay, so oh, interesting. We then have 3 cards, and this is where it all comes down to choice. We have the Mirror, or the Hanged Man. We have the Moon on the Water, or the Moon. And we have the Emperor, or the Green Man in this deck. And it all comes down to choice, basically. How we allow these emotions to reflect back what is going on and what we're going to do with that. So as you can see with the Emperor, there's a bit of tiredness here. There's a bit of, but I've been trying to create this, I've been trying to do this, and it's not quite figured out the way that I would like it. And in that tiredness, there's a mistrust in our own ability to achieve things. There's a mistrust in the collective ability to action that is more sustainable emotionally for everybody and for ourselves individually. And that, excuse me, feels where it's really, really important to recognize what is going on emotionally before we create. Where are we creating from? The Emperor has a choice to destroy or to refertilize in the destruction. So to destroy for the sake of destruction, or to bring down that which no longer works. What is it going to be? Taking responsibility for that this week by looking at what we are putting into the mix. Emotionally, yeah, that is going to come from the Moon card, but also the Hanged Man or the Mirror card. That's going to come from seeing our emotions from a different perspective, from seeing our emotions as an invitation to expand into the psyche, to expand into the collective, to recognize that our emotions are that minute trickle of what is actually going on in the world. Okay, so when we do that, we can step into the fact that we are supported by more collective energies as well, but also take responsibility for what we're adding into the mix. Now, the key here is to recognize any illusions in the perspectives that we have of ourselves. Not everything that is being reflected is an image of us, and we can take that on board as part of our story. So that's going back to the energy of feeling as if we have to almost step into the trauma and the wounds in order to be relatable. This week, there is going to be a divide, an emphasis on division that is necessary to recognize experience for what it is, to recognize hierarchy for what it is, and the difference. There is a big difference between hierarchy and experience, and that is up to us to see that within ourselves, and then the energies that we are choosing to connect to or follow. The pedestal is a long, long way to fall down from. Keeping that in mind this week. Okay, so underneath it all, we have the Ace of Bows, which is the spark of life, the Ace of Swords here. A wonderful, wonderful opportunity for a new beginning, in particular as we lead into Imbolc, and that I can really feel that coming in, and it's coming in from the feminine type energy here, but underneath it is the Knight of Arrows, the Hawk, and the Pole Star. The ability to go from the Page of Bows, the Stoat, the younger energy, and take the benefit of seeing things from younger eyes to help us embrace a far greater perspective here, because only then, in the Pole Star, in the Star card, are we going to see the potential, which you can't actually see. You can't see this card, and that feels quite poignant. We can't always see our potential. You know, whenever I'm looking after, or whenever I used to look after anybody in labour, one of the biggest questions would be, how long is it going to be? And if we knew how long changes were going to take, they could give us some kind of strength and some kind of resolve. However, that doesn't give us the experience of doubting ourselves and getting what we need as part of that. Experience is to be gained this week by us all. As we remember, in order to do so, we must go through the process of it. So, with that in mind, 28 minutes. I was going to look at the energies for the week, and there's a curiosity there, there's an excitement there, I can plan my diary to it there. Okay. And there is an invitation there, should we so wish, to feel into the energy. So let's do that. Okay. Yeah. 11. The Woodward. In this deck, it's the Strength card. Okay, so it's the ability to communicate with the divine. It's one thing to know what could potentially happen this week, this day, this month, this year. It's more important the impact that awareness has on our body, and from there, what it is we're being asked to do. So I will look into the energies this week, but it will be based on that perspective. Monday, there's actually 2 cards. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday. So I just love that. You know, you saw me shuffle the cards and many of the same cards have come back out. And sometimes that's the beauty of looking into things, isn't it? Sometimes that's the beauty of understanding things. We can have a confirmation of what we already know. This week, no matter what happens, no matter how we see things or ourselves or each other, they are a confirmation of what we've already known. That may be things we might not want to have known, want to have felt. We may be trying to avoid the emotions that brings up, but it's what we already know. And there is support there, provided we can acknowledge the truth of what we have felt intuitively, what we have seen psychically, and then understand what it is we are going to ask to be done about it, if anything. So on the Monday, we have the King of Swords and the Five of Swords, the Kingfisher and frustration. In those moments of uncertainty, recognizing uncertainty is the way forward. To feel into uncertainty means something has changed, something is different. We're only certain when we know 100%, and the truth is none of us know 100%. There are too many multifaceted aspects occurring in this world. We can only know who we are. So in those moments of uncertainty and frustration where we're trying to take aim on all these different aspects of ourselves, come back to the core, the King of Swords. Who are we? In our divine connection on the Monday, who are we? On the Tuesday, we have the return of the Moon card. There's no getting away from some of these illusions, particularly emotionally, because we must understand that it is about connecting to what we feel for the intuitive wisdom that it brings. So we may see things outside where we think, oh, I bloody knew that. Or, oh, I felt that. Okay, that was the greater lesson there. So you can concentrate on the illusion of things being outside of you, or you can come back to the knowing that the answers are there emotionally. And from there, look at what answers haven't been intuitively led or psychically led. What ones have been from our mind or from our wounds or from our past or from our hopes and fears. What ones are actually from our present emotional state. What ones are from other aspects of ourselves. That's the biggest illusion this week, Tuesday in particular. From there on the Wednesday, we have that Knight of Arrows again. We have that hawk perception. We have that grander vision. It is with the Aquarius new moon. It's come back up again. So one of the abilities of the visionary is to see through the illusions, our own included. Tuesday and Wednesday, that's a great opportunity to do that. And it is going to be discombobulating. It is going to start on the Monday. Our mind is going to be all over the place. So keep coming back to the core, coming back to our own divine intuition on the Monday is going to help us see the emotional illusions on the Tuesday and the greater perspective on the Wednesday, because on the Thursday, that's what leads us into the Ace of Bows, that spark of life energy that has come back up. So those new beginnings, you're not going to miss them. And on the Monday, it can feel as if we're going to miss our chance, we're going to miss our direction, we're going to miss the opportunity. The new beginnings are there. They're always there, okay? So if something comes up and you feel as if you're repeating it on the Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday, it's an opportunity to complete it. Repeat it or complete it. The choice is ours. And on the Thursday, there's a new potential coming in with that, just as we continue to go through the process. So you can see that the same cards have come up anyway. That beginning is always going to be there. It's that saying of what is meant for you is meant for you, okay? So just allowing time and rest to be with the pauses, reintegrating. On the Friday, we have the pole star energy. That star card has come back up again. So it feels quite important to recognize the only cards that are different, which I will do that at the end of this reading. But we have the pole star, and in order to see the greater vision in this card in particular, it is about going within. What are you holding on to? What are you creating with? That's the vision you're going to see. That's the vision you're going to create. Harsh but true. On the Saturday, that's going to bring up the defensiveness. On the Saturday, that's going to bring up the the judgments we may not have been aware of our own path as well. Okay, we may not want to go in there. We may not want to feel some of those niggling truths that are coming up. On the Sunday, we have the green man. So again, one way or another, what needs to be created will be created. One way or another, if you're not ready, you will be helped to be made ready. If you are ready, then you will be able to take that forward. So allowing the process to move through you. We can get so caught up in all the difficult healings and the modalities and the things that we have to change and shift and da, da, da. Allow it to move through you. Recognize what is different? Well, in this reading, underneath it, we have the Seven of Vessels, which is mourning. Okay, so allowing that completion, allowing that end, that transition, that rites of passage, that death almost of your own perceptions of who you were and what it is you offer and the world that you create as a result. It will be through the body as well. It may be, again, it's going back to that beginning part of the reading, rest or be encouraged to rest. Because what happens after that, myself, I've just got over a cold, what happens after that, once we purge through the old paradigms, our senses are heightened and increased, and that's what's trying to come up. That's what's new, an increased sense. So what is different? The Woodward card, the strength card here, the ability to connect to our own animalism, our own shamanic path, our own native soul, the King of Arrows and the Five of Arrows, by connecting to that divine thought process, going beyond those stories just with some curiosity. Okay, that's what I've always thought. What about that? Playing that thought tennis. You know, here's one thought, here's another. Let's bat them off against each other. Why? Ask. Who? What? Where? How? Questioning the thoughts, questioning the stories, questioning ourselves continually. Yes, that may lead to frustration, but it's going to break through any uncertainty that you have, because eventually you'll run out of questions. Eventually you'll run out of thoughts. Eventually you will come back to a place of deeper insight to your core self. What's different this week is the ability to have the strength and courage to face the mindset, the stories, the awareness that are now causing us frustration, that are now offering us deliberately the opportunity to turn things now, to reconnect to a higher perspective, not only of ourselves, not only of the world, but of how we choose to create with that as a result. And that's a whole other ball game, right? There's no victims in that mentality. Take care, and I shall see you next week.